Ladies and gentlemen, certainly, here's an intro to your motivational speech in the style of Shi Heng Yi, calm, grounded, philosophical, and layered with inner reflection and discipline, yet also direct and powerful. There is a saying in the temple, that which you chase runs faster. That which is still attracts. Many people come to me with the same question, again and again. How do I get her to chase me? How do I make her want me back? And I tell them, you do not make someone want you by becoming desperate, by losing your center, or by chasing what is already running away. You must understand the one who leads is not the one who speaks the most, nor the one who begs for attention. It is the one who radiates calmness, purpose, and presence. So today, we are going to talk about not just the outer tactics, but the inner transformation that causes attraction to return, that makes her feel your absence as deeply as she once felt your presence. We are not here to manipulate, we are here to transform, and when you transform yourself, your energy, your focus, your discipline, she will feel it, even without a word. That is how you get her to chase you back. Not through force, but through becoming the man who no longer needs to chase. Let us begin. When a woman walks away, when she pulls her energy back, most men instinctively panic. They chase, they explain, they apologize, they plead, thinking that their words can fix what was felt in silence. But what they fail to realize is that attraction is not negotiated. It is either present or it has faded, and more often than not, it has faded because the man stopped being the man she once admired. He shifted from confidence to neediness, from presence to absence, from purpose to pursuit. So the answer to getting her to chase you back lies not in doing more, but in becoming more. It is not about showing her you care, but showing yourself that you have value, regardless of who stays or goes. To become the man she is drawn to energetically, you must pull your energy inward. That means no more texting to check in, no more watching her stories, no more reacting to her breadcrumbs. It is about detachment, not coldness, but stillness. Because the man who is still, who is grounded, becomes magnetic. Women feel energy. They sense when a man is in control of his emotions and when he's spiraling from loss. They are wired to respond to strength, not desperation. So if she left, you must ask yourself, not what can I do to get her back, but who was I being when she started pulling away, and more importantly, who have I become since? The man she wants to chase is not sitting around hoping. He is not making her the center of his thoughts. He is not crafting long messages or trying to prove his worth. He is building his body, sharpening his mind, expanding his mission. He is focused on becoming the kind of man who commands respect without asking for it. When a man aligns with his path, when he stops negotiating with the past, his energy changes. He no longer waits, he no longer seeks. He allows things to come to him, or he walks away in peace. That energy is undeniable. It is the energy of self-respect, the energy of purpose, the energy of a man who is no longer controlled by emotion but guided by intention. This energy is not fake confidence. It is not about pretending you don't care. It is about truly reaching a place where you understand your value doesn't decrease because someone else failed to recognize it. That mindset is attractive. That frequency calls her back, not because you manipulated her, but because you reminded her of the man she first fell for. When a woman senses that you are no longer seeking her approval, when she sees that your life has become better in her absence, her curiosity returns. Her attraction slowly rebuilds because the man who was once reactive is now centered. But this only happens when the shift is real, not for her, but for yourself. You cannot fake energy. You cannot pretend to be healed or detached when you're constantly checking your phone. She will feel it. She will know, but when your actions reflect a genuine disconnection from needing her and a deeper connection to your own life, the balance of power shifts. The goal is not to make her chase you just to satisfy your ego. The goal is to become a man who is so aligned, so focused, so whole within himself that people naturally want to be around you. They want your time, your attention, your presence, because it becomes rare. And what is rare is valued. Most men are available too easily. They give their energy too freely. They react to everything she does, thinking that effort equals attraction. But effort without value is empty. What she is drawn to is not the effort, but the energy, not the chase, but the challenge, not the noise, but the silence. The silence of a man who is too busy becoming to worry about chasing validation is the drug most men are addicted to, often without even knowing it. From childhood, they've been conditioned to seek approval from parents, from teachers, from society, so when it comes to women, the same pattern plays out. They try to win her attention, impress her, prove their worth. They begin to center their behavior around her responses, chasing compliments, reactions, messages, and time. But in doing so, they fall into the trap of performing rather than living. They become entertainers, not leaders. And no woman truly wants to chase a man who is chasing her approval. She chases the man who validates himself internally and holds his frame regardless of who comes or goes. When a man is rooted in self-worth, he doesn't need to be told he's good enough. He knows. He doesn't look outward for confidence. He draws it from within. His actions are not designed to provoke a response, but to express who he is. There is no need to exaggerate, to flex, or to seek constant reassurance. And this subtle shift changes everything, because a woman can feel when a man's presence is full and when it's hollow. A man who validates himself is whole, and wholeness is magnetic. It's calming, it's steady, it's powerful. It doesn't scream, it just is. And that quiet confidence pulls people in without effort. The man who no longer seeks validation becomes unpredictable in the most attractive way. He's not moved by every mood swing. He doesn't try to decode every message. He doesn't panic when she pulls back or feel victorious when she comes closer. He remains grounded, not cold, not detached, but grounded. He gives not out of need, but out of overflow. He is no longer trying to be chosen. He chooses himself, and that, ironically, is when she often begins to chase, because now she senses something rare. A man who doesn't need her attention to feel significant. A man who walks with certainty, regardless of who notices. Many men confuse ego with confidence. They think appearing tough, emotionless, or aloof is strength, but true confidence is never performative. It doesn't seek to impress, it seeks to express. The man who has real self-respect doesn't need to play games. He simply holds boundaries. He doesn't raise his voice to be heard. His energy speaks before he does. And because he knows who he is, he doesn't mold himself to fit someone else's expectations. He doesn't become smaller to avoid conflict or become louder to gain attention. He stands still and lets the world adjust around him. That kind of presence can't be manufactured. It comes from facing your own shadows, healing your wounds, building your body, training your mind, and connecting with a mission that's bigger than any relationship. When you know where you're going, and when you move with discipline and clarity, you don't get thrown off course just because someone stops texting you. You don't lose sleep because someone lost interest. You stay on your path, and by staying on your path, you become more attractive than any pickup line or clever tactic ever could. When she sees you no longer trying to impress her, when she notices that your happiness doesn't depend on her attention, when she feels the shift from need to abundance, everything changes. Now she is drawn to the mystery. Not because you're trying to be mysterious, but because you're busy becoming. There's a depth in you now, a focus, a silence that doesn't come from withdrawal, but from wisdom. You've stopped seeking to be wanted and started becoming a man worth wanting. You've replaced performance with presence, reaction with intention, and external approval with internal certainty. And that shift, that evolution, that energy is what turns the tables without ever needing to force them. Most men try to win her back by doing more. They think that if they say the right thing, show up at the right time, or express their feelings just perfectly, she'll come running. But they don't understand that women respond more to energy than to words. What pulls her back is not what you say, it's who you've become since she left. You cannot talk her into attraction. You have to show her a different man without chasing her attention to prove it. The only way to do this is by shifting your focus inward and letting your transformation speak louder than any message ever could. Because the moment you stop trying to impress her and start evolving for yourself, you change the dynamic without even trying. A man who turns inward doesn't run to social media to look happy. He doesn't play games to appear unfazed. He actually becomes unfazed because his attention is now on his healing, his goals, his growth. He understands that attraction is not reignited through pressure but through contrast. She needs to feel that you're no longer waiting, no longer obsessed, no longer stuck in the same emotional loop. That contrast between the man you were and the man you are now is what starts to stir curiosity inside her again. Not because you posted something to get a reaction, but because she can feel, even from a distance, that your energy has shifted. This shift cannot be faked. You can't act calm while checking her profile every hour. You can't pretend to be busy while secretly hoping she reaches out. Women are intuitive. They feel when a man is centered and when he's playing a role. They are drawn to the one who doesn't need their validation to feel powerful. That's why the most powerful step a man can take isn't to do more, it's to do different. To stop chasing, stop convincing, and start becoming. That doesn't mean ignoring her, it means you give her space without resentment. You pull your energy back with peace, not with punishment. You become unavailable, not as a strategy, but as a natural result of being immersed in your purpose. When she sees you're no longer performing for her attention, when she feels that emotional cord loosen from your side, something happens. Her mind begins to wander. Her ego starts to question. Her heart becomes curious, because now you're no longer reacting to her moves. You're making your own. You've stopped existing in her frame and started building your own. The man who steps out of her world to create his own becomes more valuable than the one who stays waiting in her shadow. This is how you trigger her pursuit, not by forcing it, but by stepping into your own power. That power comes from discipline. From waking up earlier, training harder, reading more, and taking action without needing anyone to notice. You become better not to show her you've changed, but because you refuse to stay the same. Every day you put in the work, you build a different energy. One that doesn't chase but attracts, one that doesn't beg but commands, one that doesn't cling but leads. That energy is felt in your silence, in your posture, in your eye contact, and in the way you carry yourself without needing to announce anything. If she comes back, it will not be because you pulled her. It will be because your growth became impossible to ignore. It will be because you stopped orbiting around her and built a world so solid, so focused, that she now wants to be part of it. And even if she doesn't return, you win. Because in the process, you became the man you were supposed to be, not for her, but for yourself. That version of you no longer needs to chase anyone. He lets the right ones find him. And that is the true power that changes everything in the dynamic, not by force, but by presence. Most men live in constant reaction. They react to her silence with anxiety. They react to her attention with excitement. They allow her presence or absence to determine how they feel, how they act, what they focus on. This reactive state becomes their prison, and they don't even realize it. They check their phones every 5 minutes. They replay conversations. They obsess over why she hasn't replied. Their entire mood shifts based on her behavior, and in doing so, they give away all their power. A man who lives in reaction will never be chased because he radiates emotional instability. Women don't chase uncertainty. They chase stability, groundedness, and strength. The more reactive you are, the more unattractive you become. The more composed you are, the more magnetic your energy becomes without you needing to speak a word. When a woman feels like she can control your emotional state, she will test that power. Not because she's manipulative, but because this is how feminine energy works. It probes, it tests, it searches for strength. If your emotions swing depending on whether she's warm or cold, if your focus shifts based on her validation or rejection, you've already lost your center. She doesn't feel safe in your presence because you are not safe within yourself. She can't trust your leadership because you can't even lead your own mind. That's why emotional discipline is not just a buzzword. It's the foundation of masculine energy. The man who controls himself doesn't need to control others. He becomes a calm storm, a force that women naturally feel drawn toward your power, as a man is in your ability to remain still while everything around you moves. When she pulls away, you don't chase. When she tests you, you don't flinch. When she goes silent, you don't panic. You stay the same, not because you don't care, but because you've trained yourself to rise above impulse. Emotional control doesn't mean you suppress your feelings. It means you observe them, you understand them, and you choose your response consciously. This kind of self-mastery takes work. It takes awareness, repetition, failure, and correction. But when you reach that level, when you stop letting her behavior dictate your state, everything shifts in your favor. Now she starts to notice that you're not reacting like before. She starts to feel the distance, not because you created it out of spite, but because your world is no longer revolving around her moods. You're still kind, you're still present, but you're no longer dependent. Your energy has changed. You're now leading the interaction with calm authority instead of chasing it with emotional urgency. And that makes her pause, that makes her wonder, that makes her reconsider. Because now she realizes that the power she once had over you is slipping, and the man she thought she understood is evolving. This emotional shift also reflects in your actions. You stop explaining yourself too much. You stop justifying your worth. You stop trying to convince anyone of anything. You begin moving in silence. You train, you work, you study, you build, and in that silence your power grows. People feel it. She feels it. It's in the way you respond instead of react, in the way you hold eye contact without flinching, in the way you say less but mean more. That's the energy of a man who has returned to himself. You must become non-reactive, not as a tactic, but as a way of being. You must let go of the need to control outcomes, to fix situations, to always be validated, and you must start focusing on controlling your breath, your decisions, your time, your thoughts. Because the man who has emotional control becomes rare, and what is rare becomes valuable. Women begin to chase not because of what you say, but because of what they feel when they're around you. And if your presence is strong enough to calm their chaos, you become unforgettable without trying. The reason most men never experience a woman chasing them is because they never become scarce enough to be missed. They are always available, always reaching out, always reacting to her moves. They respond within seconds, they check her stories, they like her posts, they hang on to every breadcrumb she throws, and in doing so, they make themselves common. There is no mystery, no gap, no space for her to feel his absence. Women cannot chase a man who is always right behind them. There has to be distance, there has to be contrast. If she doesn't feel the space between you, she will never feel the pull to close it. Scarcity is not about playing games. It's about realigning your priorities so that your attention is no longer given freely to someone who hasn't earned it. When a woman senses that she has access to your time, energy, and emotions at any moment, she stops valuing them. It's not a conscious decision, it's human nature. What is abundant is taken for granted, what is rare is desired. If you want her to feel your value, she has to experience life without your presence. She has to wonder what you're thinking. She has to question where your energy went. She has to feel that gap. And the only way to create that space is to pull your attention away from her and back into yourself. You must become the man whose time is a privilege, not a guarantee. This begins with boundaries. You stop responding instantly. You stop making her your first thought in the morning and your last thought at night. You stop checking if she's viewed your story, and you start creating a life that's so engaging that you don't even notice if she does. When you become less available, not because you're pretending, but because you're genuinely busy with purpose, she starts to feel your absence in a different way. That's when her mind begins to drift back to you. That's when the attraction begins to rebuild, not from pressure, but from curiosity. Most men fear becoming scarce because they think she'll forget them. But what they don't realize is that it's the exact opposite. Constant presence breeds emotional fatigue. Space creates emotional clarity. If she has any emotional bond with you at all, space will magnify it. The silence will echo, the distance will make her remember, not just the good times, but the unique energy you brought into her life. But this only works if you're not faking it. If you're just pretending to be busy while secretly obsessing over her, the energy won't shift. She will still feel your attachment even if you say nothing. The transformation must be real. You must actually remove your energy, reclaim your focus, and give that power back to yourself. When you start living from a place of internal abundance, her behavior no longer determines your mood. You don't feel high when she texts or low when she doesn't. You're no longer waiting for anything. You're moving forward, and ironically, it's that forward movement, that self-directed energy, that begins to pull her back. Because now you are not the man who needs her, you are the man she has to earn again. And that shift in dynamic changes everything. The less you make yourself available, the more she starts to value your presence. When you stop showing up just because she calls, when you stop dropping everything for a chance at her time, when you stop proving yourself to someone who stopped appreciating you, you create a new standard. That standard forces her to either rise to meet you or fade away. And if she chooses to come closer, it's no longer because you chased her. It's because she felt the shift in your energy and was drawn to it. Scarcity is not about ignoring her to punish her. It's about being so focused on your mission, so immersed in your evolution, that you naturally become less accessible. That natural scarcity is powerful. It's what makes kings desirable. It's what makes leaders respected. It's what makes a man unforgettable. When you no longer try to be wanted, when you simply become a man of value who doesn't give himself to everyone, you create a dynamic where chasing you becomes the only option left.